Hey, welcome to this just quick and easy, non-destructive turkey coloring page activity. I'm going to demonstrate this using Photopea, but you could very easily use Photoshop as well. I have printed instructions that kind of take you step by step, but also I have this video, and there are some links to some sites that might be helpful. One of those is where you can go to look for some turkey coloring pages. The second one is the actual coloring page that I'm using, which is this one, and there's some additional at the bottom. And then just to show you examples of things you might search for, if you're going to do searching for some patterns to put in the feathers, you can search for whatever pattern you're looking for. Or I give you a link to Resize textures, which will allow you to go and pick textures that are in small little tiles. And if you want to use those inside your pattern fill layers, you can choose any of those and it'll fill it in all the way like you see around the edges of this web page. So those are tiny little patterns, and I'll show you how to use those too. So let's hop to it. Here is my finished turkey, but let me go ahead and open a fresh one up for you. And there we go. So we've got a turkey here. First thing you're going to do is just to crop off any excess. So I want to get rid of this border and the text at the bottom. So I'll go ahead and crop that with the crop tool. And then if you're using Photoshop, be careful because your image could be in an index color mode. That won't matter in Photopea, but in Photoshop, you would have to change the image mode, which we don't have to worry about in here. Okay, once I've got this cropped, you're probably going to want to double check your image, go to image, image size, to ensure that it's not humongous, because Photopea doesn't love really big images. So if you're under 1,000 or so, you're probably good to go. All right, next we're going to remove the background. Now, basically for this exercise, all you're going to need to do is use the magic wand tool. So I'm going to set my tolerance pretty much at like 100, just because that will make sure it grabs all the white. We're going to start off by selecting the background to remove it. So you're just going to click that with your magic wand tool. And then because that selects the background, not the turkey, we're going to right click and select the inverse, or you can go to the select menu. And then be sure you're clicked on your turkey layer over here. I should probably name this turkey just so I don't get confused. And then you're going to click on the layer mask button. You're going to add a layer mask. It's the circle with the box around it. All right, that gets rid of our background. Now, if you wanted to, you could place in a background. I don't have one saved right now, but if you had one, you could place in a background by going to File and Place, or Open and Place. And if you were in Photoshop, it's File, Place, Embedded. Or you can just use a fill layer and create your own background. I'll just do that real quick. So I'm going to click here on the adjustment layer button. It looks kind of like little moons. The three that we're going to use, and the only three we'll use for this exercise, are the top three. These are fill layers. In Photoshop, they're called solid color, gradient, and pattern. In Photopea, it's called color fill, gradient fill, pattern fill. Same order, same spot, top three. Okay, so if I want to do a background gradient, I would click on the gradient fill. You're going to have your option for your gradient and style. If you want to go with a linear, which for something like this would probably be fine, choose the angle that you want. So if I want to start at the bottom, go to the top, I'll change the angle, and then click on the color box and set your color stops. So let's say instead of black at the bottom, I want to do green like grass. And then instead of white at the top, maybe a really pale blue, kind of a sky blue kind of thing going on, and I'll hit OK. All right, so there is that. Now I'm going to move that layer behind my turkey layer. All right, so now I have my background. But again, you could have put a picture back there. Okay, next up, I'm just going to demonstrate each of the adjustment layers, so you're not going to watch me do the whole thing. So I've already showed you how to do a gradient, but if you wanted to do a gradient and you wanted the gradient colors to come from a different angle, and you wanted to select more than one, that's going to require something else. So let's say I want the feathers and the face and the neck to all be the same gradient. So in this case, I'll make sure my magic wand is here. I'm going to click the first one and then hold down Shift, click the other, the neck, and the little face there so that they're all selected. Or instead of holding Shift, you could have set it to Unite on here, or if you're on Photoshop, Add to Selection. Okay, so now I've got that set. I'm going to go ahead and come back to this button and hit the gradient fill again. This type of gradient, you're probably going to want to use a radial gradient. That's inside out. And I usually reverse it because I like to have it go the other way, but it just depends on what your colors are. Same thing, click your gradient stops and then pick whatever colors that you like. So if you want to have like a brown turkey, go down into your brown colors and kind of see, you can preview it a little bit along the way so you can kind of see what you're getting. And then click your other stop. And you can have more stops. You don't have to have just that number. Let's see. I'll do it just a little bit lighter on the outside edges. There we go. All right, and hit OK. But you could put another one like in here. You just click once. I'm going to hit OK. That looks good. All right, so that's gradient. To do color fill layers, again, every time you're going to have to come back and click on your turkey layer on the thumbnail. And then you can select. So I'll take my magic wand. Let's say I'm going to do both of my feet. So I'll click one, hold shift, click the other. This time I'm going to click the adjustment layer button and go to color fill and then choose whatever color that you want that to be. Something a little more orangey. All right, we'll hit OK. And there we go. It looks good. Now you could use a paint bucket, but a paint bucket is destructive. So I like to use these color fill layers. Plus, if you change your mind, all you have to do is double click on one of these and it opens it back up and you can change the colors. So it's very simple to edit. Okay, the last thing I'm going to go over is basically how to add a pattern and how to use a picture inside of part of a feather. So I'm going to do a pattern fill. That's the third one here. Now to do a pattern fill, you have to have a pattern. So I downloaded a pattern from this background tiles page and I've opened it just in a separate tab. All you have to do, it's really simple, is go to Edit, Define New, and Pattern. That's it. Once you do that, you can pop back over to your coloring page. And now I'm going to click on my turkey, take my magic wand and click on his belly, and then go back to my adjustment layer and choose pattern. And once you do that, on pattern, there's a little drop down arrow, and then you should see your pattern. It was defined, and so it's there. And you can scale it up or down, depending on what size you want it to be. Now in Photoshop, this is a tiny bit different, but basically still the same. You're going to open the tile, you're going to go to Edit, Define, Pattern, and then you get to name it, hit OK. Then when you come back into Photoshop and you click on Pattern, it'll automatically be there. Same thing, you've got a scale here as well. So nothing too complicated. All right, finally, how can we add the feathers? So here you're going to have to open, or you could copy and paste. So I could take one of my patterns here and right click it and just copy the image and pop in here and do it, or you could file open in place. So I'll just paste this one in. All right, there it is. Looks kind of funny. I'm gonna put it down below that so it's right on top of my turkey, and then kind of position it. Mine's actually in a good spot because it covers up where the feathers are. You just want to make sure it's in the right area. And you're not going to be able to change the size of this later. So if you do need to resize, be sure that you transform. That's under Edit, Transform, Free Transform, or Edit, Free Transform. That'll give you your handles, and you can hold Shift, pull from the corner to resize. But if I know I'm going to put it only on a feather on this side, I might go ahead and make it small and stick it over here on this side. Let's say I'll do that. I'll just choose 2 feathers over on this side. Okay. But you want to make sure it's covering up the right feathers. Okay. Now turn off the pattern for a minute, come back to your turkey, and then select whatever feather you're going to color. So let's say I'm going to do this one, and then I'm going to hold Shift, and let's say I'm also going to do this one. So I have 2 feathers selected. Now I'm going to come back to my pattern picture layer, and then I'm going to hit my layer mask. Oops, wrong one, layer mask. There you go. Now those are only showing in that little spot. And I can basically repeat this process again. If I wanted to, I could open and place an image and stick it in there. So say I've got this pattern here. I'll pull it in. Let's say I'm going to use that over on this side somewhere. I'll go ahead and hit my OK button, turn it off, click back on the turkey, take my magic wand, select a couple of things, holding Shift, turn it back, turn it back on. Be sure you're on the right layer here, and then add the layer mask. And there you go. You basically just repeat this process until you have your whole turkey done. When it's finished, of course, you're going to download a PSD version to keep, and then export a JPEG version to share with your teacher. Easy peasy.